Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are diving into an automotive mystery that's literally going to change how you look at modern car repair. Picture this. You've got an LF Sonata, right? And it spends 6 agonizing months bouncing between 5 different, supposedly expert repair shops. The owner is just burning through millions of won, pulling their hair out, completely convinced their high-tech machine is just failing them. But here's the kicker. The grand finale? The ultimate fix for this total nightmare cost exactly $0, literally not a single cent. It wasn't some fried computer. It was a single, slightly loose ground screw. I mean, how does an entire industry miss something so incredibly basic? Let's get into it. Okay, so I really want you to keep this one crucial question in the back of your mind as we go through this. If the brain itself faints, who is left to tell the story? We kind of have this habit of thinking about our cars as these, perfectly self-reporting, hyper-intelligent networks. But what actually happens when the very system responsible for logging the errors is the one that blacks out? Think about it. If the brain faints, the security cameras go down with it. There is nobody left to hit the alarm. Just look at the sheer absurdity of this setup. You had 5 different shops prescribing what is essentially expensive open-heart surgery, telling the owner to replace the entire computer module for thousands of dollars. But the physical reality? The patient literally just needed a glass of water. It was a single loose ground screw worth 0 cents. This whole component swapping frenzy we see nowadays, it's honestly a form of financial gaslighting. It's driven by mechanics who have become completely disconnected from the actual physics of the machines they are working on. So let's jump straight into Section 1, the scanner's fatal trap. The absolute most important thing to grasp here is that a scanner is not some magical oracle. It can't, look deep into the soul of your engine. It's really nothing more than a digital historian. And, well, a historian can only read the records that were actually written down, right? For a car's computer to store a fault code, its electronic brain absolutely must be awake and fully functioning during the actual failure. If it's not, the scanner has literally nothing to read. And that brings us to this crazy phenomenon known as the intermittent blackout. Just imagine the sheer panic of driving down the highway at speed, and out of nowhere, your speedometer completely drops to 0, the ABS light is flashing like crazy, your car basically feels possessed. You take it to the shop, totally terrified, and the scanner says everything is perfectly fine. No codes, nothing. It is incredibly frustrating, but what you're likely dealing with is this elusive ghost. It's not a broken module at all. It's an unstable foundation that's causing the entire system to just momentarily die. Which leads perfectly into Section 2, a dead brain is silent. You really have to drill this concept into your mind. A scanner's silence absolutely does not mean your car is perfectly healthy. It simply means the witness was killed before it could speak. The ground connection, that's the return path of electricity, is the foundational bedrock of the circuit. If that ground fails, the system literally lacks the electrical power to even log a fault. It just vanishes from the network entirely. Because, again, a fainted computer cannot record its own death. To a mechanic who is just staring blindly at a screen, it might look like a vague communication error, or worse, it looks completely normal. All right, let's look at Section 3, the smartphone cable hint. To really wrap our heads around this, think of a frayed smartphone charger. Come on, you know the exact one I'm talking about. You have to tilt it like a millimeter to the left, prop it up with a heavy book, hold your breath, and pray it charges. When it finally loses contact, your phone doesn't print out a detailed multi-page diagnostic report explaining a sudden drop in voltage. No, it just goes dark. It stops charging. Well, your car's highly complex ABS and ECU modules, they act the exact same way. They are sophisticated computers that demand a 100% stable electrical loop. When that loop is compromised, they shut down entirely. We are talking about 0.1 seconds here. Just pause and think about how incredibly fast that is. If that vital electrical loop breaks for literally just a tenth of a second, the computer loses consciousness completely. During that microscopic physical event, the communication lines go totally dead. The data transmitter is, for all intents and purposes, unconscious. And the crazy part? When the connection touches back together and the system wakes up, it has absolutely 0 memory of the blackout. None. It's basically the perfect crime. Moving right along to Section 4, the disastrous result of blind faith. Let's actually break down how this builds into a total catastrophic failure of the repair industry. Step 1. The physical ground connection flickers for a fraction of a second, just because of a loose screw. Step 2, the module loses consciousness and entirely fails to record an error. Step 3, the mechanic plugs in their scanner, sees absolutely no codes, and arrogantly declares the car normal. Or, seeing the customer getting frustrated, they move right to step 4, prescribing a million-won module replacement. They are actively hunting for a broken part instead of a broken connection. Honestly, this is absolute intellectual bankruptcy. This timeline really highlights the utter tragedy of the whole situation. What starts as just a 0.1-second drop in electrical ground quickly cascades into the speedometer crashing out while you're cruising on the highway. Days later, a diagnostic screen happily reads normal. And over the course of 6 agonizing months, a luxury vehicle is effectively reduced to a pile of scrap metal. All simply because mechanics acted merely as code readers, completely ignoring the physical reality of the machine sitting right in front of them. Finally, let's get into Section 5, wiring diagrams and logic's return. So here is the actual blueprint for real diagnostics. True experts, they have to stop being slaves to the scanner. When the screen gives you nothing, you don't just throw your hands up in defeat. No, you unfold the complex physical wiring diagrams. You start physically tracing those foundational electrical grounds. You absolutely have to trust the fundamental laws of physics over a silent digital screen. Because remember, this isn't a defect of the module itself. It's an environmental execution of the circuit. Finding it requires a serious return to critical logical deduction. So I'll leave you with this. Next time your car's scanner says normal, are you going to trust the screen or the laws of physics? It's a question every wise car owner, and frankly, every honest mechanic, has to answer. Because true diagnostics isn't about plugging in a fancy device and just blindly reading codes. It's about uncovering the physical truth hidden deep within those circuits. Don't let a blank screen gaslight you into a $1,000 repair. Trust logic, trust physics. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next deep dive.